Ancient Japan, a topic that's forever fascinated me. I noticed there were no iceberg videos for it, so I decided to create my own iceberg chart containing many of my favorite periods, traditions, folklore, and more. With that in mind, welcome to the Ancient Japan Iceberg, where at the top are things more commonly known, and the deeper we go, the more unknown it gets. Starting off, the samurai. Samurai, arguably the most popular aspects of ancient Japan, were the elite warrior class in ancient times. They were highly regarded for their loyalty, martial prowess, and adherence to the Bushido code, which emphasized honor and self-discipline, with loyalty being above one's own life. These skilled warriors served feudal lords known as the daimyo in exchange for land and protection. Covered in distinctive armor and wielding weapons like the katana and wakizashi, samurai practiced various martial arts and followed strict codes of conduct, committing themselves to their lord's service with unwavering loyalty. The samurai also played a crucial role in shaping Japan's political landscape through affecting its cultural norms and values, emphasizing values like honor, courage, and self-discipline. We'll also touch upon how they helped unify and stabilize Japan during the Tokugawa Shogunate in a later entry. Overall, their significance persisted through centuries, although their prominence declined with the modernization of Japan in the late 19th century. This marked the end of an era characterized by their honor, discipline, and unwavering dedication to their lords. Feudalism in Japan. Feudalism in Japan refers to a socio-political system that was implemented from the 12th to the 19th century. At its core, feudal Japan was originated around the principles of loyalty, military service, and land ownership. The system was structured hierarchically, with the emperor positioned at the top, followed by the shogun, who acted as the military leader, and then the daimyo, who controlled territories across the country. Samurai, or the warrior class, pledged allegiance to these daimyo and were granted land and protection in return for their service. This reciprocal relationship formed the foundation of feudal society, with the samurai serving as the ruling class. This feudal system created a relatively stable society for centuries, but also led to periodic conflicts among competing daimyo for power and control. The system's stability gradually faded away during the Sengoku period from 1467 to 1603, marked by intense civil wars and power struggles among regional lords. Eventually, the rise of the Tokugawa Shogunate in the early 17th century created a more centralized form of governance, establishing a relatively peaceful era with strict social order until its collapse in the late 19th century during the Meiji Restoration. This marked the end of feudalism and the onset of Japan's modernization. Sakoku Edict. The Sakoku Edict, implemented by the Tokugawa Shogunate in the early 17th century, was a series of policies aimed at regulating and restricting foreign relations and trade with other countries. Sakoku translates to closed country, reflecting Japan's closed borders during this period. Under the edict, Japan adopted a strict policy of limiting contact with foreign powers, severely restricting foreign trade and prohibiting Japanese citizens from traveling abroad or returning if they left the country. The primary objective of Sakoku was to maintain political stability and prevent foreign influences from disrupting Japan's social order and traditional values. The shogunate sought to control interactions with Western powers, particularly European colonial nations, to safeguard Japan from potential religious, cultural, or political infiltration. Exceptions were made for limited trade with the Dutch and Chinese, who were confined to the port of Nagasaki under strict regulations. This policy remained in effect for over 2 centuries, creating internal stability but also limiting Japan's exposure to technological advancements and global developments. It wasn't until the mid-19th century when pressure from foreign powers and the need for economic expansion led to the end of Sakoku and the subsequent opening of Japan to international trade and relations during the Meiji Restorations in 1868. The Tokugawa Shogunate, also known as the Tokugawa Bafuku, was a significant period in Japan's history that lasted from 1603 to 1868. Established by Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogunate marked a time of centralized rule, bringing stability after years of conflict and civil wars. Under the Tokugawa rule, Japan experienced a prolonged era of peace known as the Edo period, characterized by strict social hierarchies and isolationist policies. The government was based in Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, and the Tokugawa shoguns exerted control through a system of feudalism. They implemented policies that limited the power of the daimyo, enforced social order, and introduced economic reforms, fostering cultural and economic growth. It was also during this time that the samurai transitioned into more than just warriors, taking on administrative positions, managing lands, overseeing taxation, and contributing to local governance. Also, the fact that a law was governed that the lower class weren't allowed to carry swords anymore created more authority of the samurai and prevented civil uprisings or rebellions. Additionally, it was this period that Japan enforced the closed country policy, which again maintained internal stability and protected Japan's culture and traditions from outside interference. However, by the mid-19th century, pressure from Western powers demanding trade and diplomatic relations, along with internal unrest and economic changes, led to the shogunate's downfall and introduced the Meiji Restoration, which sets up the next entry. Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration was a defining era in Japan's history, occurring from 1868 to the early 20th century. It aimed to transform Japan from a feudal society into a modern nation, with pressure from Western powers. Led by Emperor Meiji and a group of reformers, this period saw significant changes in politics, society, and the economy. The restoration marked the end of the feudal system, stripping the samurai of their original privileges and restructuring the nation into a unified state, which also impacted the authority of the regional daimyo. Inevitably, there was a lot of opposition and dissatisfaction from not only these parties but also society because of the loss of traditional values. This caused various uprisings and resistance against the reforms. However, in the end, Japan embraced Western technology, education, industries, and military strategies to catch up with advanced global powers. It proved that was much needed, as people theorized if it didn't happen, Japan would have been taken over by a neighboring state. The government initiated reforms that led to industrialization, infrastructure development, and the establishment of a modern military. Overall, the Meiji Restoration propelled Japan into an era of rapid modernization, blending Western influences with traditional values, and positioned the country as a formidable global player in the 20th century. Moving on to Tier 2, Yayoi period. The Yayoi period, spanning from approximately 300 BCE to 300 CE, represents a watershed moment in ancient Japan's history, following the Jomon period and ushering in significant socio-cultural changes. This transformative era, named after the Yayoi district in Tokyo, where archaeological discoveries were made, introduced critical innovations that reshaped Japan's societal fabric. Foremost among these was the revolutionary shift from a predominantly hunter-gatherer society to one centered around agriculture, specifically the adoption of wet rice cultivation techniques. This pivotal change, believed to have been brought by migrants from the Asian continent, led to settled farming communities and a fundamental restructuration of societal norms. As agriculture flourished, communities became more organized, resulting in the development of intricate social structures and hierarchies. Moreover, advancements in metallurgy during this period, notably the production of bronze and iron, catalyzed technological processes, revolutionizing tools, weapons, and everyday implements. The Yayoi period also witnessed the emergence of political systems and the establishment of trade networks, fostering cultural exchange with neighboring regions. These multifaceted developments laid the groundwork for Japan's agrarian-based civilization, significantly influencing its future cultural, technological, and societal landscapes. Kappa. Kappa, known as river children in Japanese folklore, are reptilian humanoids residing in Japan's rivers and streams. While clumsy on land, they thrive in water, displaying exceptional swimming abilities and surprising physical strength, surpassing that of an average man. Their appearance resembles a human child, featuring scaly, earth-toned skin, webbed hands and feet, a turtle-like beak, and a shell. These creatures are said to be intelligent, maintaining solitary lives while occasionally befriending yokai or humans. They exhibit a mix of pride, stubbornness, and honor, never breaking promises made. Kappa possess extensive knowledge in medicine and bone setting, having allegedly taught these skills to humans. Despite their mischief-loving nature, they are revered in Shinto, which is a native belief system, as water deities, occasionally aiding humans through irrigation or companionship. However, their mischievous behavior can turn into crass or violent, involving peeking at women, public flatulence, and attacking animals. They've also been known to kidnap, assault, or consume humans. Outwitting them on land usually involves tricking them into bowing deeply, spilling the water from on top of their heads, and rendering them vulnerable. Once defeated, some Kappa swear eternal loyalty to their victors. Mongol Invasions. The Mongol invasions of Japan were a series of attempts made by the Mongol Empire, led by Kublai Khan, to conquer the Japanese islands in the late 13th century. The Mongols, after successfully expanding their empire across much of Asia, set their sights on Japan as part of their larger conquest. In 1274 and again in 1281, Kublai Khan dispatched large fleets to invade Japan. During the first invasion in 1274, the Mongol forces landed in Kyushu, Japan's southern island. However, bad weather and the formidable defense put up by the Japanese samurai halted their progress. The Mongols faced challenges due to the rugged terrain as well as resistance from the Japanese defenders. The second invasion in 1281 was more substantial, with a larger Mongol fleet and forces. They again faced similar weather-related difficulties as well as fierce resistance from the Japanese samurai. Legend has it that a typhoon, famously called a kamikaze or divine wind, struck and destroyed much of the Mongol fleet, contributing significantly to their defeat. This natural disaster, combined with the Japanese defenders' efforts, thwarted the Mongols' attempts to conquer Japan, and Japan ended up coming victorious. These invasions, despite not achieving their objectives, had lasting effects on Japan. They prompted the strengthening of coastal defenses and the development of military strategies to protect against future invasions. Kabuki Theater. Kabuki Theater emerged during the early 1600s in the bustling streets of Kyoto and Osaka, where an all-female cast performed suggestive and provocative plays. These performances, initially known as kabuku, were highly popular but soon evolved to incorporate dramatic elements linked to the birth of Kabuki Theater. With its fusion of dance, drama, and music, Kabuki rapidly gained attention and became a form of entertainment for the common people, featuring acts such as portraying men engaging in tea-house encounters. However, its growing popularity and the involvement of female performers led to concerns about social and moral order. In 1629, the Tokugawa Shogunate issued a ban on women performing in kabuki due to accounts of prostitution and often violent arguments between spectators for the woman's favor. As a result, young boys began to take on female roles, which further complicated the situation as these actors also became associated with immoral behavior. Eventually, in 1652, the shogunate prohibited young male actors from playing the female roles as well. From then on, kabuki performances exclusively featured adult male actors. Despite facing strict regulations and bans, kabuki managed to adapt and thrive by refining its artistry and developing innovative techniques that continue to captivate audiences today. Now moving on to Tier 3, Gigaku Performances. Gigaku Performances were ancient Japanese mass dramas that originated in the 7th century, during the Asuka and Nara periods. These performances, believed to have been originated from China and Korea, were large-scale outdoor spectacles that combined music, dance, mime, and masked acting. Gigaku featured performers wearing elaborately carved masks, often portraying deities, mythological creatures, or archetypal characters. These mass dramas were characterized by their vibrant costumes, exaggerated movements, and rhythmic music created using drums, flutes, and gongs. The stories depicted in Gigaku performances usually revolved around moral and religious themes, aiming to entertain and educate the audience about Buddhist principles and values. These shows were performed in front of the public, often during religious ceremonies and festivals, serving as a form of entertainment as well as a means of spreading cultural and religious teachings. While Gigaku was immensely popular during its time, especially in the Nara period, its prominence gradually diminished by the end of the 12th century. Japanese Zen Gardens. Japanese Zen Gardens, rooted in ancient traditions, trace their origins to the 8th century, influenced by Chinese landscape design and philosophy. Initially, these gardens were part of temple grounds in Japan, specifically within Zen Buddhist monasteries. These gardens were conceived as spaces for meditation and reflection, aiding monks in their spiritual practice. The early Zen gardens during the Heian period were simpler in design, often featuring ponds, streams, and plantings to represent natural landscapes. However, the evolution towards dry landscape gardens, or Karen Sansui, occurred during the Muromachi period from the 14th to 16th centuries. Influenced by Zen Buddhism principles, these gardens shifted from emphasizing water elements to utilizing rocks, gravel, and sand to evoke natural scenes, creating minimalistic landscapes akin to abstract paintings. The fundamental purpose of these ancient Zen gardens remained consistent: to facilitate contemplation, inner peace, and harmony with nature. Carefully arranged elements symbolized mountains, seas, or rivers, encouraging a sense of tranquility and interconnectedness with the natural world. Zen gardens became intrinsic to Japanese culture, evolving over centuries and transcending their original association with Buddhist temples. Hidden Christians. The Hidden Christians, also known as Kaku Krishitan in Japanese, were a clandestine group of Japanese Christians who practiced their faith in secret during a time when Christianity was banned and persecuted in Japan. This period, known as the Kaku Krishitan era, lasted for centuries, starting from the 17th century when Christianity was prohibited following a series of persecutions targeting Christians and missionaries. Driven underground due to the severe suppression of Christianity by the ruling authorities, particularly during the Edo period, these hidden Christians continued to practice their belief covertly, blending Christian rituals and prayers with local customs and symbols to avoid detection. They used secret codes, disguised religious symbols, and practiced faith in remote regions or concealed places, such as caves and isolated islands, to evade persecution. To preserve their faith, hidden Christians passed down their belief orally from one generation to the next, as the practice of Christianity was forbidden and punishable by death. Many converted back to Buddhism or Shintoism publicly while maintaining their Christian faith privately, leading dual religious lives. The hidden Christians faced immense challenges in maintaining their faith traditions amidst persecution, but their perseverance and commitment allowed the practice of Christianity to survive in Japan until the ban was lifted in the 19th century. Today, their legacy endures, and some descendants of hidden Christians continued to practice Christianity, holding on to the traditions passed down through generations. Ainu people. The Ainu people, with their rich cultural heritage and distinct way of life, have a deep-rooted history in ancient Japan, particularly in the northern regions of Hokkaido and parts of the Tohoku region. Believed to have inhabited these lands for thousands of years, the Ainu's presence predates the expansion of the Japanese nation. In ancient times, the Ainu lived in harmony with nature, engaging in hunting, fishing, and gathering as primary means of sustenance. Their spiritual beliefs were deeply intertwined with the natural world, revering spirits and deities residing in the elements around them. Rituals and ceremonies centered on these beliefs were performed to honor and communicate with these spirits, emphasizing a spiritual connection to the environment. The Ainu maintained a unique and autonomous culture, distinct from that of the Yamato people, who later formed the dominant Japanese culture. Their language, Ainu, which is unrelated to Japanese, and their distinctive artistry in wood carving, weaving, and tattooing set them apart culturally. Over time, interactions between the Ainu and expanding Japanese population resulted in changes within Ainu society. With the rise of Yamato influence and policies aimed at assimilation, the Ainu faced pressures to adopt Japanese customs, linked to the erosion of some aspects of their traditional lifestyle and practices. Moving on to Tier 4. Ancient Roman coins in Japanese castles. The discovery of ancient Roman coins in a Japanese castle has intrigued historians and archaeologists, sparking debates about potential ancient trade routes or historical connections between Rome and Japan. Unearthing Roman coins dating back to ancient Rome's heyday within the confines of a Japanese castle has raised questions about how these coins found their way to Japan. The presence of Roman coins, typically associated with the Mediterranean region within Japanese castle grounds, has fueled speculation about potential trade networks or even the possibility of direct contact between Rome and Japan in ancient times. Some theories suggest that these coins might have arrived in Japan through indirect trade routes or via intermediaries across Asia, possibly along the Silk Road or other ancient trade paths. The possibility of the coins being part of later trade routes or brought to Japan during the medieval or Renaissance periods rather than ancient times is also under consideration. Although it's still a mystery, further investigations and analysis of these coins may shed light on potential trade routes, cultural exchanges, or historical interactions between distant civilizations during ancient times. This would actually be really cool, knowing that Rome and Japan may have made contact in ancient times. Kintsugi. Kintsugi, an ancient Japanese art form rooted in the philosophy of embracing imperfection and honoring the beauty of brokenness, involves repairing broken pottery using a lac mixture with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. The term kintsugi translates to golden joinery or golden repair. Instead of concealing cracks and fractures, kintsugi highlights them as part of the object's history, emphasizing its journey and resilience. The process of kintsugi involves meticulous craftsmanship. First, the broken pieces of pottery are carefully reassembled using a special lacquer. Then, precious metal powder, often gold, is applied along the lines of the mended cracks. This intricate technique not only restores the broken item but also elevates it into a work of art, imparting it with a unique and striking appearance. Beyond its aesthetic appeal, kintsugi embodies profound philosophical and cultural significance. It symbolizes the beauty found in impermanence and the acceptance of flaws or life's hardships as integral parts of one's history. This art form promotes the idea that objects, and by extension, individuals, can even be more beautiful and valuable after being broken and repaired. It represents a profound appreciation for the passage of time and the stories that objects and people carry with them. This revered practice continues to captivate audiences worldwide, not just as a technique of restoration, but also as a powerful metaphor for resilience, acceptance, and the celebration of life's journey. Yasuke. Yasuke, believed to have been born in Africa, was a remarkable historical figure known for his presence in the 16th century Japan as an African warrior and retainer. He gained prominence as a retainer and bodyguard to the powerful Japanese warlord Oda Nobunaga during a period of intense political turmoil known as the Sengoku period. Little is definitely known about Yasuke's origins, but historical accounts suggest he arrived in Japan as a servant or slave aboard a Portuguese ship around 1579. His impressive stature and physical appearance, being notably taller and of African descent, fascinated the Japanese populace, garnering him attention and admiration. Yasuke's remarkable martial prowess and loyalty to Oda Nobunaga earned him favor and respect within Nobunaga's retinue. He served Nobunaga faithfully during various military campaigns, eventually gaining the honorific title of samurai, a rare distinction for a foreigner during that era. However, Yasuke's time alongside Nobunaga was cut short when Nobunaga was betrayed and forced to commit suicide during the Honnoji incident in 1582. Following Nobunaga's death, Yasuke's fate became uncertain, and historical records detailing his life after Nobunaga's demise are scarce. Despite the relatively limited historical documentation about Yasuke, his presence as an African in feudal Japan continues to capture the imagination and interest of people worldwide, with a bunch of adaptations in popular culture like shows and anime. Japanese tea ceremony. The Japanese tea ceremony, known as chanyo or sado, holds its deep-rooted significance in Japan's cultural heritage, dating back centuries to ancient times. Originating in the 9th century and evolving through subsequent eras, the tea ceremony embodies principles of harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. Initially introduced from China as a method of preparing and consuming powdered green tea or matcha, the Japanese tea ceremony gradually transformed into a highly ritualized practice, blending elements of Zen Buddhism and Shinto traditions. The ceremony evolved into a spiritual and aesthetic ritual far beyond the act of mere drinking tea, encompassing meticulous steps, gestures, and behaviors. The ancient tea ceremony revolves around the meticulous preparation and serving of matcha in a dedicated tea room called the chashitsu. The host, referred to as the jajin or the taishu, meticulously orchestrates each aspect of the ceremony, from preparing the utensils and the tea to the manner of serving and interacting with guests. Every element of the ceremony, the setting, the utensils, the movements, and the quiet contemplation, is designed to foster a sense of tranquility, harmony, and mindfulness. It serves as a platform for participants to escape from the hustle of daily life, cultivating a profound sense of appreciation for beauty, simplicity, and the present moment. Hachiman. Hachiman, a significant deity in Japanese Shintoism, is revered as the divine protector of warriors, the guardian of the nation, and the god of war and archery. Worship of Hachiman traces back to ancient times, with origins linked to historical figures and legends, particularly Emperor Ojin, who is believed to have been deified as Hachiman after his death. Originally associated with war and martial prowess, Hachiman gradually became the revered and multifaceted deity, embodying concepts of protection, prosperity, and natural security. Temples dedicated to Hachiman were constructed across Japan, and he became one of the most venerated Shinto deities, especially among military leaders and samurai clans who saw his divine favor in battles and conflicts. Hachiman's significance expanded beyond military affairs, incorporating attributes of agriculture, commerce, and the general well-being of the nation. The deity was regarded as a unifying force, symbolizing unity and stability within communities. The syncretism of Shintoism and Buddhism further elevated Hachiman's status, as he became fused with other Buddhist deities, such as the Bodhisattva of compassion, and was revered in both religious traditions. In the modern day, Hachiman continues to be revered at numerous shrines throughout Japan, with notable ones including the Usa Shrine in Oti Prefecture and the Tsurugoka Hachiman-gu in Kamakura. Fox spirits. Fox spirits, or kitsune, were believed to possess supernatural abilities, including shape-shifting with the power to transform into various forms, most commonly beautiful women, often as a means to interact with humans. Stories of kitsune depicted them as intelligent, cunning beings capable of both mischief and benevolence. Ancient Japanese folklore also associated kitsune with the Shinto deity Inari, the god of rice, fertility, and prosperity. Inari shrines, which originated in ancient times, often included statues or representations of foxes as messengers or guardians, emphasizing their sacred and revered status. These fox spirits were considered to gain more wisdom and power as they aged, with tales of older kitsune possessing multiple tails, up to 9 tails in some legends. The number of tails was symbolic of their age and spiritual strength. Furthermore, kitsune were seen as symbols of fertility, wealth, and good fortune, influencing ancient beliefs and rituals. The tales of kitsune, showcasing their abilities and interactions with humans, became an integral part of ancient Japanese culture and heritage, reflecting the intricate relationship between the supernatural and everyday life in ancient times. Now moving on to Tier 5, Mimizuka. Mimizuka, translated as the Mound of Ears, is an ancient historical site located in Kyoto, Japan, dating back to the late 16th century. During this period, Japan was embroiled in intense conflicts, including the Imjin War, which lasted from 1592 to 1598, between Japan and Korea. Constructed in 1597, Mimizuka holds a dark and somber significance. It serves as a memorial mound for the severed noses and ears of Korean soldiers and civilians, as well as Ming Chinese troops who perished during the conflict. The Japanese military forces, under the command of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who was considered the second great unifier of Japan, collected those body parts as gruesome trophies after battles in Korea. It is estimated that the noses of 38,000 Koreans and 30,000 Chinese troops are part of this shrine. The mound symbolizes the brutality and atrocities of war, representing a grim reminder of the human cost and suffering during historical conflicts between Japan and Korea. It stands as a poignant relic of the past, highlighting the tragic consequences of warfare and the complexities of historical relationships between nations. Noppera-bo. Noppera-bo, a distinct figure in Japanese folklore, represents an intriguing manifestation of ghostly encounters deeply embedded in ancient tales and cultural narratives. The tales of Noppera-bo typically feature a humanoid entity, often described as an ordinary looking person or a woman, who suddenly reveals a featureless, smooth face that lacks eyes, nose, mouth, and any defining facial characteristics. These spectacle encounters are known for their unsettling nature and are often recounted as eerie experiences taking place on isolated roads, forests, or secluded areas during the night. Despite their frightening appearance, encounters with Noppera-bo rarely result in harm or malevolent intentions. Rather, they tend to startle or surprise those who come across them. The legend of Noppera-bo, passed down through generations in Japan, is a part of the diverse tapestry of yokai folklore, presenting intriguing insights into ancient Japanese beliefs and supernatural encounters. While specific accounts of Noppera-bo encounters vary, the overarching theme revolves around the unexpected and the unexplicable, leaving lasting impressions on those who hear these captivating stories. Yotsuya Kaidan. Yotsuya Kaidan is a renowned and chilling ghost story ingrained in ancient Japanese folklore, showcasing elements of betrayal, vengeance, and supernatural retribution. This famous tale has transcended time, becoming an iconic narrative in Japanese theater, literature, and cinema. The story revolves around the tragic fate of Oiwa and her husband Tamiya Lemon, set in the Edo period. Tamiya Lemon, a former samurai turned ronin, seeks to advance his social status by marrying the virtuous Oiwa, while simultaneously being in love with another woman. To pursue his ambitions, Lemon conspires with a conniving servant, Kohai, to murder Oiwa by poisoning her. The poison disfigures Oiwa's face, causing her immense suffering and ultimately leads to her death. However, Oiwa's spirit returns seeking revenge on Lemon and those responsible for her tragic demise. Her vengeful ghost, with her disfigured face concealed by a white cloth, haunts Lemon, driving her into madness and torment. The Yotsuya Kaidan story is steeped in themes of betrayal, guilt, and supernatural retribution, evoking a sense of terror and suspense. It serves as a cautionary tale against treachery and deceit, emphasizing the consequences of moral transgressions and the relentless pursuit of ambition at the expense of others. Yotsuya Kaidan has become an integral part of Japanese cultural heritage, inspiring numerous adaptations in theater, literature, and film. Sujigiri. Sujigiri, originating in feudal Japan, refers to a dishonorable and illegal act where samurai would randomly attack or kill innocent passerby to test out a new sword, hone their martial skills, or display their prowess without any justified reason. During the feudal era, when Japanese held significant power and authority, the act of Sujigiri was considered a grave violation of social order and ethical conduct. This misconduct went against the Bushido Code, the samurai's ethical principles emphasizing honor, integrity, and justice. Sujigiri was viewed as a horrible offense that disregarded the sanctity of life and disrupted societal harmony. Engaging in Sujigiri not only defied moral standards but also led to severe repercussions. It often provoked outrage among the populace and sparked intense backlash from authorities, resulting in severe punishments or even the execution of the offending samurai. Despite its infamy, instances of Sujigiri were relatively rare due to the inherent dishonor associated with such actions. The practice gradually faded away as societal norms evolved, and the strict enforcement of laws sought to deter such unethical conduct. Now finally onto Tier 6. Umi-bozu. Umi-bozu, originating from ancient Japanese folklore, is a mythical sea creature often depicted as a massive humanoid entity that emerges from the ocean's depths during stormy weather. The name Umi-bozu translates to sea monk or sea priest. Described in various tales as a colossal figure with a bald, featureless head, dark, shadowy appearance, and piercing eyes, Umi-bozu appears suddenly during tempests, creating immense waves and turmoil at sea. Legends recount encounters with this eerie entity, attributing shipwrecks and mysterious disappearances of sailors to its appearance. The folklore surrounding Umi-bozu often serves as a cautionary tale to warn sailors and fishermen of the dangers of the sea. The tales highlight the unpredictability and perilous nature of the maritime travel, emphasizing the importance of respecting the ocean's power and unpredictability. Despite its fearsome appearance, some stories depict Umi-bozu as a mischievous or malevolent entity, while others suggest a more benevolent nature. Tsukumogami. Tsukumogami are supernatural entities in Japanese folklore that originate from ordinary household items acquiring spirits or souls after existing for 100 years. These objects, such as tools, household items, or artifacts, gain sentience and transform into yokai, or spirits, once they reach the century mark. Believed to come to life on the night of their 100th birthday, Tsukumogami exhibit distinct personalities and often possess powers or abilities related to the original function. These objects, having served their owners faithfully for years, can harbor feelings of gratitude or resentment, depending on how they were treated during their lifespan. The folklore surrounding Tsukumogami reflects the animistic beliefs in Shintoism, where all things, including inanimate objects, are believed to possess a spirit or kami. However, Tsukumogami specifically depict these spirits as taking on a life of their own after a century of existence. Stories of Tsukumogami have been passed down through generations, blending elements of wonder, mystery, and the supernatural. They serve as cautionary tales, encouraging respect and gratitude toward household items and reinforcing the belief in treating possessions with care and reverence. Samurai have supernatural powers. The notion of samurai possessing supernatural powers is often intertwined with the mystery surrounding the 12 rules of the sword. This ancient text was said to be orally passed down by a samurai who won 33 duels in Japan. The 12 rules of the sword are perceived as a set of principles that extend beyond physical techniques, encompassing a code of conduct guiding a warrior's mentality, discipline, and approach to combat. These rules often emphasize precision, timing, mental fortitude, and a deep spiritual connection with the sword. It includes 2 magical prayers that were said to enhance the samurai's mind and spirit, as well as enhancing skills, heightened awareness, and even gaining seemingly superhuman powers during battle. Some stories depict warriors who, through strict adherence to these rules, could predict opponents' movements, achieve near invulnerability, or transcend the limits of ordinary swordsmanship. However, while samurai were indeed highly skilled warriors with disciplined training, the idea of supernatural ability resulting from the 12 rules of sword is part of a narrative that is still a mystery, but the idea of samurai with supernatural powers is super fascinating to me regardless. Self-Mummification. Self-mummification, also known as Tsukin Shibutsu, was a rare and extreme practice observed in certain Buddhist sects in ancient Japan, particularly within the Shingon and Tendai traditions. This process involved a prolonged and arduous form of self-mortification to achieve spiritual enlightenment and was considered an extreme expression of asceticism and devotion. The practice of Tsukin Shibutsu typically spanned over several years and was initiated by Buddhist monks who sought enlightenment through extreme self-denial and self-mummification. The process involved adhering to a strict diet of nuts, seeds, and poisonous tree sap, which aimed to eliminate body fat and preserve the internal organs. Subsequently, the monks would enter a tomb or pit where they would meditate in a seated position, consuming minimal food and water. They would continue this regimen while chanting sutras and awaiting death. When nearing death, the monk would signal by ringing a bell or bell rope, indicating to the other monks that the self-mummification process was reaching its conclusion. Upon passing away, if the body remained preserved, it was considered a sign of successful self-mummification and spiritual attainment. These self-mummified monks were revered as spiritual beings and venerated by their followers. The Tsukin Shinbutsu practice was eventually outlawed by the Japanese government in the 19th century due to its extreme and potentially hazardous nature. Now onto the last entry, Genghis Khan was Japanese. The popular belief among some Japanese circles suggesting a connection between Genghis Khan, the famed founder of Mongol Empire, and Minamoto no Yoshitsune, a Japanese general, has persisted over time despite lacking historical basis. This narrative emerged from the writings of Kencho Suisamatsu during his time in Cambridge, England in the late 19th century. Suisamatsu, a figure discovered by statesman Hirobumi Ito, authored a pamphlet in English titled The Identity of the Great Conqueror, Genghis Khan, with the Japanese hero Yoshinitsu. This pamphlet, later translated into Japanese in 1885, garnered attention among Japanese readers, leading to wide acclaim. The tale by Suisamatsu suggests that Minamoto no Yoshitsune, known for his strategic prowess and admired by the Japanese as a great military commander, actually survived historical records of his demise, and secretly fled to Hokkaido, which was then known as Ezo. Expanding on this narrative, it was proposed that he further traveled from Hokkaido to Sakhalin, and eventually reached the Asian continent into Mongolia. However, Suisamatsu's arguments linking Genghis Khan to Yoshitsune were deemed as improbable and lacking factual basis. The theory, although unfounded, had an unexpected impact, fueling a fascination among the Japanese with continental China and fostering a sense of affinity with the Mongols. That concludes the end of the video. If you reached this far, I appreciate it, and I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching. Bye.